Hi, I'm giving a lecture in Amsterdam in about 2 weeks, and I'm just about to do a practice run, and I thought it might be a good idea if I just record it and publish it because then everyone can see it. And yeah, enjoy. Hi, my name is Manuel. I'm a front-end developer from Vienna and I work for the city in Vienna. And today I'm here to talk about semantic HTML and especially about the importance of semantic HTML and the importance of a well-structured HTML document. And the reason why I picked this topic is that today in this room there are a lot of designers and a lot of front-end developers and probably also something in between. And no matter how much HTML you will write in the future on future projects, you all are responsible for the document. And to explain why, let me give you an example. So back when I was a full-time freelancer, the projects that I worked on usually went down like this. An agency would call me and say, "Hey, Manuel, we have a new project. Do you have time to work on it?" And I would say yes. And then they would invite me. And then I would sit down with a project manager and he would show me the design, the already finished design. He would walk me through the design and explain, okay, this is the homepage and this is that. And if you click this, you get to this page and so on. And then he asked me, do you have any questions? And then I would ask the questions, he would answer them, and then he would say, how much? And I would say a number, and he would say yes, because I was really cheap back then. And then I would go home and I would start working on the website. I would write HTML, CSS, JavaScript, maybe even a specific template language like Twig or Nunchucks, depending on the stack. And when I was finished, I would send it back to the agency, and the backend developers would start implementing my static content and make it dynamic. Now, this sounds okay, but actually this is really bad because the only two people usually who sat down with the client and got a proper briefing were the project manager and the designer. So they probably know most about the project. And then the designer starts designing, and then they call me, and then they tell me the information they believe is important about the designer. But I'm not even talking to the designer, but to the project manager. So he only picks the most important things according to his understanding. And then I go home, I work on it, and I don't know, maybe he forgot something or maybe I didn't understand something properly. So I start to interpret some things in my own way. And then I give this to the backend developers. And again, they look at the code and they might think, okay, is this important? I don't know. Maybe we can cut that or let's change that. And the problem is that everyone is on their own island and we're just shouting stuff from island to island, and some information will get to the island and other information will be lost. And this is really bad. In a perfect world, we would all sit together at the table with the client, so backend developers, front-end designers, content editors, pretty much anyone involved with the project, so that everyone can share their opinion, their experiences, and also raise their concerns about certain limitations like performance and accessibility and usability. This is how it should work. So having all the people who work on the project, like the key players involved, is really important, and also communication between a designer and the front-end developer. There shouldn't be a disconnect. They should work closely together and talk about the things that are in the design and really discuss them on a very high level. So like not just talk about, okay, this is a button or whatever, but talk about what the button does, what kind of state does it communicate, and so on. So this is really, really important. Another reason why I picked this topic is that the quality of the HTML on most websites is really, really bad. And I can say that because besides my job at the city, I'm also a freelancer, and part of my job is to assess the quality of websites, the quality of the accessibility. And I also have this shitty little hobby of just, having to inspect the code others have written or websites I'm visiting. So I see a lot of HTML code and the quality is really bad. And there are many reasons for that. And I believe one of the main reasons is that we are underestimating the complexity of HTML. So HTML, the language, the syntax, it's pretty easy to learn. I know you're not supposed to say this stuff is easy or simple, but I've been a teacher for more than 10 years, and based on my experience, I can say that most people understand HTML and are able to write HTML after a couple of hours. So most people pretty quickly understand the concept of tags and end tags and attributes and attribute values and nesting and so on. But there's more to HTML than just that. HTML is super complex. HTML is about structuring documents, about communicating semantic information, about communicating state, about communicating page changes. It's about giving people orientation and so much more. And also, we're not just working with one output medium. There are multiple browsers, there are different operating systems, there are different screen sizes, different devices. On top of that, there are also crawlers, like search engines that crawl our site, and people might use a software like a screen reader to read the content on the page. So it's really, really complex, and just a really hard job. And but we are still kind of downplaying the complexity, which is really bad. Okay, so there's one more reason, and the last reason is that. Sorry, I forgot what I wanted to say. And sorry. And the third reason is that we don't teach enough how to turn design into code. And I'm not talking about CSS. So we're teaching CSS, and CSS is also super complex. But I'm not talking about painting stuff on the screen, but I'm talking about interpreting a design, understanding what's in the design, what the things are supposed to do, and how they affect users, because this is ultimately what it's about. This is the most important thing. How do our decisions impact users? What does our choice mean for the user? Will they get access or not? Will they have a great time using our product or not? Yes, so we don't talk about enough about that, and I'm not just talking about education, about schools. I'm also talking about people who write articles and give talks at meetups and at conferences. So, yeah. And this is exactly what we are going to do. So I've designed a website. It's a super basic website, super simple, nothing special, just looks like any other website. I didn't design it in Figma or Sketch, I designed it in the browser. So please just imagine that you're not looking at a browser, the finished product, but that you're looking at a Figma document, for example. And I will quickly walk you through the design. And once we have that, once we understand what we are looking at, we're going to turn this into HTML. First, we will take a very literal approach. So we will just look at the things that we see on the screen, we'll turn it into HTML, and then we're going to test it. Then we were going to do it again, but this time we're not just turning design into code that we see on the page, but we will put a little bit more thinking into what the things are actually supposed to do and how the document should work for the user. And then we will do another test. Okay, so what you see here is a website about travel. I don't really know what I built here, but it's about traveling. It's called Traveler. At the very top of the page, there's this introductory area with a logo, the Traveler logo. There is a navigation with a bunch of links. There is a search icon that will, I don't know, probably open a modal window where you can search things. Then you have this hero area. It says explore the most beautiful cities, and there's another search for cities. Then you have a bunch of teasers or cards, as I like to call them. There's a teaser for Barcelona, Berlin, and Utrecht with images and descriptions. Followed by that is a map. So just imagine that there isn't just one pin, but multiple pins. It's like a map for the trending cities or something like that. And then we have an area, a huge list of cities, which lists all the cities on the website. And then we have some random text about the website. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And now let's imagine that we're at the stage of the process that I explained earlier, where I go home and I start working at the website. Okay, so on the left is now the website, on the right is VS Code. I've created an HTML document. This is the first step. And the next step is we need a basic page structure. So I will add that. Let me just quickly walk you through what I've written here. So we have a doc type, we have a modern HTML5 document, and we have to find it using the doc type. Then we have the root element, and I set the language to English, which means that this content, the natural language of the page, is written in English. This is really important. The language attribute is a powerful attribute. Then we have the head. I've defined the character set, and also I set the viewport to the width of the device so that we can build responsive websites. We have a title, it's called Traveler, the site for Globetrotters. And then I have 3 lines of loading Google fonts. Yes, I'm loading it directly from Google. I was just lazy. And then we have a style sheet that I'm including in the site and the body tag. That's it. Okay. Now, let's just work our way through the design from top to bottom. The first thing that I see here is the logo, Traveler. It's just type, but yeah, it's an SVG. So let's add the SVG. A simple SVG element with some paths, as you can see. There's a height and a view box attribute and fill and so on, nothing special. And I've wrapped the SVG in a link so that when users click the logo, they get back to the home page. It's just a thing that I like to do, and also I like as a user, I like being able to click the logo to get back to the home page. The next thing is our navigation, just 3 links. And I put them in a div because for layout reasons. So you don't, at this stage, you don't have to start adding divs because you usually only need divs for CSS reasons. But if you already know that you will need them later in CSS, you can add them already. Yes. And the first link has a class of active, so I can highlight the active page. Cool. Okay, 3 links. And the next thing is the search icon, which is another SVG, nothing special. Okay, I would say that we now have this first area. Cool. And then let's talk about the hero thing. I mean, the type is large, so this is probably an H1. So it's explore the most beautiful cities is an H1. That's the title of our page. And then we have this form. In this form, we have an input field with a placeholder where it says Amsterdam, Vienna, and Berlin. And then we have a button, and in this button is an SVG, the search icon again. And if we look at that, yeah, of course I didn't prepare that, sorry. Yeah, this is how it looks like. It's just the logo, some links, the title, and a form. Looks okay to me, if you ask me. Yeah. Now let's deal with the cards. Again, I've created a div because I know that I need it for layout, and each card is also a div. There's an image for the card, and there's an H3, looks like an H3 to me. There's a paragraph and also a link, nothing special. Really just an image, heading, text, and another paragraph with this explore link. That's it. Let's move to the map. The map also pretty easy. Sorry. Map also pretty easy. It's just an iframe. iframe for OpenStreetMap. Of course, this would probably be something else. Maybe a map in your own corporate design, and also custom pins and so on. But for now, it's just an iframe. Now let's move to the area with the all cities. This is an H2. There's a paragraph, and we have a list of links for all different cities. Again, nothing special. This looks okay to me. Then we have this another section about Traveler, and there's also a paragraph. And then we have the legal information at the bottom of the page. Yeah, with a link to our legal page. That's it. I think that looks pretty great. So the final document will look like this, and yeah, our cards, the map, all cities, looks like a pretty good HTML document to me. Now I will add some CSS here. I've already prepared it, of course. So this is how our site looks like. So this is the final website, and now we want to test it. The first thing that I do is that I use the keyboard. This is one of my favorite tests, so I'll just press tab, and I try to access all the things that I can access with the mouse. So a thing that you can do is, just click around in the document and see what can you do with the mouse, and then you try to do the same thing using the keyboard. So as I press tab, you can see there is an outline around the logo. Why? Because it's a link. It's cool. I can also access the other links, so we've done a great job here. I press tab again, and now the search icon is skipped. It's skipped because it's an icon, it's not an interactive element, and we can only focus interactive elements like buttons and links and form items and so on. So this is something we got wrong. So we are now excluding keyboard users from being able to use this search. The other form is accessible, that's great. We can also find the links in the cards, that's also cool. Now focus is gone. If I press again, I don't see where I am, so there's something wrong with the iframe. Okay, now I'm on the pin, that's okay. I can zoom in and zoom out using the keyboard, that's fine. There are 2 more links. Okay, now I'm at the all cities. And yeah, if I want to get to the next section, I have to tab through all the links here. This is bad. Okay, and yeah, I can access the other stuff easily. So what doesn't work great here? Well, first of all, we can't access the search icon here. This is a problem. And yeah, there are 2 hidden tab stops here. And yeah, in order to get to the rest of the page, we have to tab through all these links. I think there are more than 40 links, so 40 tab stops, and this is really bad. All right, now let's take the same site. Fuck. Okay, now let's take the same site and test it in Safari. I think I'm using AVIF here, and this is why the image is not showing. Doesn't matter, it's not important. I'm starting VoiceOver now, the built-in screen reader in macOS.
VoiceOver on Safari. TRVLLR, the site for Globetrotting. Link, http://127.0.0.15500/. You are current.
What just happened here is that the screen reader reads the title or the accessible name, the text of the link, but there is no text. There's only an SVG. So it falls back to the URL the link is pointing to, which sucks.
On a link, home. URL, link, destinations, link, about.
Okay, this works nice. So it just tells me, okay, there are 3 links, or no, it just announces the links, but this could be better. So first of all, we don't have the information which of the links is currently selected, because I've added this active class, but the screen reader doesn't, or the page doesn't communicate this to the screen reader. So this could be better. If I have a lot of links, it would be great to know that how many links there are in this navigation. And also, these links are just a bunch of links. And I would like to know what kind of group of links this is. So we should communicate that this is the actual navigation of the page, or maybe even the main navigation of the page. Okay, let's keep going.
Heading level 1, explore the mode.
Again, also as a screen reader user, I cannot access the SVG. It's just an icon. It has no accessible information for me. So yeah, this is bad.
Amsterdam, Vienna, Berlin. Edit text, blank.
Okay, now you can see that here we hear the placeholder text, and this is okay, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with this input field. So it would be great if there was a label that tells me search for cities or something like that.
Button. You are currently on a...
Here it just says button because the SVG again has no label, and also the button has no label, so I don't know what this button does.
CDB-NAF742R-OKVN2W98FU.JPEG image.
Okay, so the form is followed by a random image. I don't know what this image is supposed to do. It reads the file name of the image, and that's because the image has no alt attributes. And I also don't know to which item in the page this image is related. Is it part of the form, or what is it? Let's keep going.
Heading level 3, Barcelona.
Ah, okay, now it says Barcelona, so it's probably an image related to Barcelona, but I really don't why. So it would make much more sense if it first would say Barcelona and then the image, because if the image is part of Barcelona, then Barcelona, the heading, should come first.
Barcelona is a city on the coast of northeastern Spain. Link, explore.
Okay.
Lip frame 0. You are currently.
Okay, so I just keep the cards and I access the iframe. It says frame 0, so there's no label for the iframe. Okay.
Heading level 2, all cities. You are currently on a head.
All cities, sounds great.
This is a list of the largest cities in the European Union according to the population. Link, link, Rome.
Okay, so now I know, because I see it, that there are a lot of links, but again, now it would be great to get this information that there are 40 links, because if there are 40 links, I'm going to choose a different way of navigating. I really don't want to go through all 40 links, so I'm just going to skip to the next heading.
Heading level 2, about TRVLLR. Lorem ipsum dolor sit up out at link, legal.
Okay, that's fine. Now, this is one way of navigating using a screen reader. There are other ways. For example, in VoiceOver, you have the so-called rotor. And the rotor allows you to list all the links on a page, all the headings, all the landmarks, all the forum items, and access them directly. This is really cool. So I'm starting the rotor.
Headings menu.
Okay, now we see the headings. It says
heading level 1, explore the most beautiful cities.
Explore the most beautiful cities. I mean, this is fine, but I at least on the homepage, I would put the name of the site in there.
Heading level 3, Barcelona.
Then all of a sudden, there's no H2, but it says Barcelona.
Heading level 3, heading level 2, all cities.
And after the cities comes all cities, but actually there is another section above that where the trending cities are the map, but there is no heading for that. So this is a bit strange.
Heading level 2, about TRVLLR, form controls menu.
Okay, we can list all the forms.
Frames menu.
The frames, again, unlabeled.
Window spots, links menu.
Okay, and we also have links.
Link, destinations, link, about.
And now the about link is followed by 3 links.
Link, explore, link, explore, link, explore.
Explore what? This is like using a text for a link like read me or read more or continue reading. Not really a lot of information in there.
Headings menu.
Okay, and usually there would be another section for landmarks, so for large areas on our page, like the header, main, and footer, but we didn't add it to the document, so we can't just directly jump to the main, which is also kind of bad.
VoiceOver off.
Okay, now let's take another approach. Now we will do the same thing, but now we'll put a little bit more thought into it. Again, we need an HTML document, we need a page structure, pretty much the same as before. And now I want to start a bit differently. Now what I usually do is when I look at a design, I try to fade out the style information. So I really try to boil it down to the core content. I try to imagine the design that I see as just content. I really, like my main goal before I write any CSS or any JavaScript, before I do anything, I really want to create a great HTML document. A document that works without CSS. And it makes sense, it's well structured, it's nice to read. Yeah. And most websites are structured the same way. Not all of them, but most websites have a header, a main section, and a footer. And the layout doesn't matter. So even if you have a 2-column layout where you have a left column with the logo and the navigation and right column with the content and a row below that with the footer information, the left column is still a header, the main column, the right column is the main element, and the bottom column, the bottom row is a footer. So the layout really doesn't matter. It matters what the things are meant to do, and the header is meant to introduce people to the page, and it has introductory content like the title and the navigation and so on. Yeah, so usually you have a header and the main element and a footer, so I'm adding this to the page. And then I try to think about the structure of the page. So how is it structured? And when I do that, I like to imagine looking at a book. So if you have a book, you usually have a index at the third or fourth page before you start with the book. You have chapters and it lists all the main chapters, maybe even sub chapters. So just by looking at the index, you can tell how the page is structured. And we should do the same thing in HTML, and we can do that by using headings. So we can create a nice structure, a nice outline, a nice index for our page using H1 to H6. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding an H1. It says traveler, the site for globetrotters. I'm not using explore the most beautiful cities. You could probably, but I don't know. For me, that's just text. That's not the title of the page. And I'm putting a class called VH on the H1, which just hides it visually. So the heading is still there. It's crawlable. It's accessible by screen readers, but it's visually hidden. Then we have another heading for the teasers here, because we have to introduce them as well. And I'm just calling this popular cities. Then we have Barcelona, Berlin, and Utrecht. And then I have another heading also hidden for the trending cities in the map and all cities and about traveler like we did before. Okay, so now I have a page structure, and now I start working on the header. We again add an SVG like we did before. The difference now is that this SVG has a title element. You can see here it says traveler. So this is what will be announced. This is the accessible name of the SVG and at the same time the accessible name of the link. You've probably noticed that I'm using ARIA labeled by here. I'm connecting the SVG to the title. So I'm labeling the SVG with the content of the title element. In some browsers, this works without ARIA labeled by. In others, you need this extra step, unfortunately. Okay, next is our navigation. I'm using the nav element because the nav element will tell users this is a navigation. I'm using ARIA label to label it. You probably don't need this, but if you have multiple nav elements, then you want to label them to allow people to tell them apart. Then you use a list to structure the items, and yeah, instead of using a class active, I'm using ARIA current because this will communicate to screen readers semantically that this is the active page, and at the same time you can use the attribute selector to style it. So we have a visual, we can communicate it visually and semantically. And then we have a button here because, you know, it's not just an icon, it's something that you can click. And if you can click it, it's probably a link or a button or any other interactive element. In this case, it's a button because it will open a modal window. I've labeled the button with another technique, so I'm not using the title element on the SVG, but I'm using ARIA label on the button. And I've also added ARIA expanded. ARIA expanded will tell the screen reader, hey, the thing this button is supposed to open is not open, it's closed, it's collapsed. And when you click the button, you change the value to true. So if they find the button again, it will say, hey, the modal window is open. All right, then our hero area, I've turned the H1 into a paragraph here. We have a form. I put the role search on the form. This turns into a landmark and allows users to jump directly into the form using the rotor. We will see that in a second. And the input now has a label called search for a city, and it's visually hidden. Now, I'm not a big fan of hiding all that stuff. So if you ask me, all these labels should be visible, but yeah, if the design demands it, then yeah, hide it. And I also put the SVG in a button and I've labeled the button with search. Okay, our cards look a bit different. So we still have this wrapper div and a div for each card, but now the heading comes first. So the heading introduces the content of the card. Then we have an image and the alt attribute is empty because, I mean, you could describe the image here, but it doesn't really add information. The most important information is it's Barcelona. This is the description, and this is how you get to the detail page. I don't really need the description of the image here. Yeah. And in the Explore link, I've added a span with this visually hidden class that says Barcelona. So the link text is now Explore Barcelona. Now this is a bit controversial because this could cause other issues. So ideally, you would just show the content, say Explore Barcelona, Explore Berlin, Explore Utrecht. Okay. The next thing is our map. I've labeled this using the title attribute. So the title attribute is the best way of labeling iframes, and it just says map with all trending cities. Then we have all our cities, and a thing that I did here is I put the role attribute with the value list on the list. This seems strange because the list comes implicitly with this role, so it has a role of list. So usually you don't have to do that. But the thing is, especially in Safari, if your list doesn't look like a list, so if you remove the bullet, then you also at the same time remove semantics. That's something that the WebKit team decided. So if something doesn't look like a list, it's not a list. And if you want to get this semantic information back, you have to put the role list explicitly on it. Okay, then we have this about traveler section, nothing special here, and I've wrapped the content in the footer in a footer element. Okay, so now all the interactive elements should be accessible, all the visual elements should be labeled, and there's one more thing that we need to do. We want to allow users to skip certain parts of our page, and the part that we want them to skip is the cities here, all cities, the map, and also the header, because there are 5 tab stops in the header, and just imagine jumping from page to page and you have to press tab or a button on a switch device 5 times every time you visit the page. That's annoying. So we want to put a skip link here as well. And here's how I do it. So yeah, so I add a link to the top of the page with a class inline skip. This just hides the link, and as soon as it receives focus, it will be visible. And this link allows users to skip the whole header section and access the search directly, or maybe the cards. It's up to you. And then we have another skip link directly after our trending cities that allows users to skip the map. And we have another skip link that allows them to skip all the cities here. So let's try this again. I'm using the tab key now. You can see the first thing that I tab to is this skip to content link, and if I press enter, I'm on the search form. So it allows me to skip all the links in the header. This is pretty cool. I keep tabbing, and yes, I can access the icon now because now it's a button and not just an icon. This is really great. I can access the form. I have my Explorer links. When I get to the map, it says skip map. Yes, I will do that. Now I'm on the all cities. And when I press tab again, it allows me to skip all the cities and I get to the about traveler section. Pretty awesome. Cool. Now let's try this with a screen reader.
VoiceOver on HTMHell link. Skip to content. You are currently.
So also as a screen reader user, I can skip the area.
Visited link. Traveler. You are currently main navigation. You are currently.
So now it says main navigation. I know it's a navigation. It's the main navigation. That's cool.
List 3 items.
Okay, there are 3 links.
Current page link. Home.
It says current page link. So I'm currently on the home page. Cool.
Link. Destinations. 2 of 3.
I want a second of 3 links.
Link. About. 3 of. End of list. End of main navigation. Search. Collapsed button.
Search collapsed button. It says it's a button. The label is search and it's collapsed. Cool.
Explore the most beautiful cities. Search. Search for a city. You are search for a city. Amsterdam, Vienna, Berlin.
Search for a city. Amsterdam, Vienna, Berlin.
Search button.
Search button.
End of search. End of banner. Main. You are currently on a main. Heading level 1 TRVLLR. The site for Globetrotters. Heading level 2 popular cities.
So you can see there's now a lot more structure. There's a header, a mail element, H1, H2, and so on.
Heading level 3 Barcelona. Barcelona is a city on the coast of northeastern Spain. Link. Explore Barcelona.
So the image is skipped because the alt attribute is empty. We start with the heading. There's a paragraph, and then it says Explore Barcelona. Great.
Link. Heading level 2 link. Skip map.
I can skip. I can skip the map, but if I access the map.
Map with all trending cities frame.
Map with all trending cities frame. Cool.
Link. Skip map. You are currently on a link to heading level 2 all cities.
Now skip the map.
This is a list of the largest link. Skip all cities. Link. Adipicissing. Elite. End of main. Content information.
Content information is the footer.
VoiceOver off.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. So you can see how just spending a bit more time thinking about what we see on the screen and thinking about what the things that we see are supposed to do and what kind of information they're supposed to provide users with makes a big difference. So just by putting a little bit more effort in it, and of course we need practice, of course, yes, and also it needs a lot of testing, we've improved the user experience significantly. So we've removed some barriers completely and we've added additional information. So how do you learn to do this with a bit more complex sites? Because admittedly, this is a pretty simple site. Well, practice, 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 and also learn how to test accessibility. There are a lot of resources online. You can ask me later if you want to about some links. But yeah, I would say just spend enough time working and learning HTML, working on your HTML. Try to create a beautiful and well-structured HTML document, validate your HTML, test the accessibility, and once you have a great HTML document, only then work on CSS and JavaScript. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. Some things didn't work quite well. I messed up the images in Safari. I thought that I updated to the latest version, but obviously I did not. I will switch that. Yeah, I hope that you like the talk. If you have any feedback, just yeah, contact me on Twitter or add a comment on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.